We have a proposal from the Department of Health, and I believe Stephanie Williams is here to present that proposal, and she's available via Zoom. Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you, Secretary Smith. Actually, I don't have a new proposal. We wanted to provide a clarification on our proposal that we presented to the committee last week and was approved. During our presentation, we mentioned that we were going to seek FEMA reimbursement for 2 items, the Battelle sterilizer and then also the quarantine facility. Following that meeting, we received additional information from Director Gary at ADAM, which was extremely helpful, and it was determined that we won't be able to seek reimbursement from FEMA. The federal reimbursement source would be CARES. And so we just wanted to provide that information to the committee to clarify that unfortunately, although we've done all of the paperwork necessary to certify those expenditures, since they're already being paid by a federal source, they wouldn't be eligible for reimbursement. So if there are any questions about that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
This is Larry Walther. We had heard a week or so ago from our National Budgeting Organization and from the Department of Treasury that they were going to allow the use of CARES money for the 25%. No one's ever confirmed that, but I just wanted to leave it out there. The possibility exists. Having said that, there is the way I've been looking at it, if we feel like as a steering committee and the governor feels like in total that we can consume the entire $1.25 billion, then maybe we need to be thinking about using the FEMA approach, even though we have to put the 25% in. You know, there's some issues that go along with that, but I think it's something we need to think about as we go forward. If there's some of these expenses that we could use the FEMA funding source to pay for, and H.A. Gary agrees with it, then we'd have to have the money up front, but we could, if that's possible, we could get recovery of 75% of that, and that would free up that 75% to be used for other reasons, for other purposes from the 1.25 billion. I just want to throw that out, something we need to consider as we go forward. I hope I haven't confused everybody.
Thank you, Secretary Walther. I appreciate that clarification. I do believe that we did make a decision already on this proposal. We just wanted to add that additional information since our proposal was, we considered the fact that we were going to be requesting the 75% reimbursement. Also, we did include in the proposal and the recommendation that we will be reviewing these expenses in September. So that is the plan. If there is any other way to cover the expenses or reduce the expenses, we certainly will plan to do that. Does anyone have any questions for Secretary Walther or Ms. Williams regarding either her information or the information that he provided? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Stephanie, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can move on to the next, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong, that's why I'm calling it a proposal. I got a little, with our technological issues, I got a little confused. So we have Secretary Fetcher here in the room with us today, and she's here to present a proposal from Transformation and Shared Services, a state agency request for pre-approved items.
Thank you, Secretary Smith. You have in your packet a proposal before you for $3.5 million. This will prepare state departments as we move into phase 2. This would be for the 23,000 plus employees and visitors to any of the agencies as we move forward in phase 2 and everyone returns to work. We did do a survey of all 15 cabinet level departments and also the non-cabinet level agencies to do a bulk order, so we would get the best cost and pricing per unit. You can see in the proposal in your packet exactly what we're ordering and the quantity. There is a total cost estimate per item, and the way we came by that is we took the average cost. We've been pricing each item and looking at things such as where the products are originating from, the quality of them, and the cost to determine which one will be the best value. So the cost estimates you're seeing is an average of the number of products we need and the average cost. This order, we believe, will take us through the end of the year, which is the time we can use the funding for the CARES Act. And they are all pre-approved items according to the CARES Act. That's all. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Representative Jean.
Ms. Fletcher, how many of the 23,000 employees are working at home right now? A guesstimate? Half? More than half?
I know Ann Purvis is on the line, and I know we do have an amount. Ann, do you have those stats right in front of you? We can't hear you if you're talking.
Approximately.
There, now we hear you.
Okay. Out of the 23,000 plus state employees, we have approximately 18,000 that are critical on-site employees. We have additional 5,000 to 6,000 that are remote work. And as Secretary Fletcher says, as we call these what we call remote workers back into the workforce, we also need to be prepared to open our doors to all of our different clients and out around the state.
So it's between 5,000 and 6,000 because some have been called back because of need and some haven't.
Where were we at the height?
6,000,
6,000, okay.
just a little over.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Secretary, does this proposal take in consideration if the outbreak reoccur? Is this just based on what's present or what may happen in the future?
I believe we looked at it as if it stays as it is through the end of the year. So if another outbreak came into existence in the fall, as everyone is saying, it would get us through the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Secretary Fletcher for going through this process and determining what we would need. And very quickly, your office reached out, your department has reached out to all of the departments to find out what the needs are to be. And my department is pretty much remote. We do only have one person actually in the office. And so we're looking forward to receiving the supplies so that if we are called back, that we can do that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions? If someone is trying to speak, I cannot hear you, so open your mic. You're okay, Jeremy. Okay, so I don't see anyone trying to ask any questions. Do we have a motion to approve this proposal that would help all of our state agencies?
Motion.
Thank you. Motion from Representative.
And I say,
2 seconds. Thank you from both Representative Allen and Secretary Walther. All those in favor of the proposal from the Transformation and Shared Services funding request for $3.5 million to cover the cost of PPE for state employees?
aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Secretary Fletcher, your request has passed. Thank you. And then next we have a follow-up, additional information. from the Department of Commerce. Secretary Preston, I believe, is on. I just saw him. Pictures. There you are.
I'm here.
Go ahead, Secretary Preston. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Smith. Appreciate it. And good afternoon to everyone. I'll be short. This is just an update and a request for some additional funds for the Arkansas Ready for Business Grant Program. This would bring us in line with what the ALC approved. It was last week or week before, whenever we were there last time. Previously, the CARES Steering Committee approved $124.5 million total for the Ready for Business Grant Program. And this reflected the numbers that the ALC had originally committed us to, which was a breakdown of 75% of the funding for businesses for 50 and fewer employees. After reviewing this information with the ALC, they decided to go ahead and allow us to fund all the applicants, all those that qualify. Should qualify by that. There are some that will be, kicked out, and some duplicates that won't, that won't meet it under the guidelines. But did decide, based on just the sheer numbers of 94% of the overall applicants being from businesses 50 or fewer, and also hitting the requirements on women and minority-owned businesses, to go ahead and fund the entire $147.7 million request. So we have that appropriation available from the legislature in order to bring us into line with that 147.7. We're requesting today that the steering committee approve an additional $23,146,250. That, Madam Chair, is my request. As an update to everyone on here, just to share with you some numbers. We ended up with 12,234 total applications received. Of those, 201 were either withdrawn or not eligible. We've approved so far 10,537 of those. Right now, approximately 8,000 of those are approved for immediate payment and have either already received a payment or will be receiving a payment sometime this week. There's an additional 2,500 who are missing some type of information, a W-9 or a voided check, but subject to that coming in are approved. And we have about 14 or just under 1,500, excuse me, not yet approved. And that's because of a delinquent tax notice with DF&A, and then about 500 that are still under our review. So the program has moved very quickly. It's getting to those businesses that we wanted it and intended for it to help all across Arkansas. Very proud of the team and the work that they've done. Most of them working long hours, and including over this holiday weekend, to get these processed and approved. And we want to make sure that we are reflecting the will of the legislature in terms of the appropriation, and this request would match it. Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions, but that is our proposal today.
Thank you. That is excellent information. I'm thrilled to hear that people have already started receiving the funding, and there's more to come very quickly. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding this proposal?
I would move that we approve Secretary Preston's proposal.
Thank you, Secretary Walther. We have a second by Secretary Fetcher here in the room. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Secretary Preston,
Thank you all.
the proposal has passed. Thank you. We appreciate your hard work on this. Okay, well, that concludes the business for the committee. We did have a request to receive information from Secretary Walther related to the status of where we are, the past funding request. And so go ahead, Secretary Walther, please.
I'd be glad to. When we sum up the total of the projects that we have approved as a CARES steering committee, prior to the two we did today, it was $412,000. $412,765,276. We've added 27 to that. So when we look at how much we have remaining, it's about $809 million remains of the 1.25 billion. However, there are other projects that are in the pipeline or have been at least brought to our attention. That totals about 228,295,000. So if we were to approve all of those, we'd be down to 608,939,000. So that gives you a reference of the where we are at this point in the process. Actually, we have $809 million that we have left to allocate.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
This is Dave Wallace.
Sir.
Go ahead, please.
Are we still looking or considering a reserve of any type?
I think that will be at the wishes of the steering committee to make a recommendation on that. I think I expressed in the last steering committee meeting that I felt like we did need to do that. I think we need to allocate some aside for the cities and counties. We probably ought to allocate some aside for broadband and some aside for contingencies as we move into the second half of this year. But I don't personally have a recommendation of what those ought to be. I think that we need to talk our way through that to determine what it should be. I'd also seek advice from the governor too.
I would like our next session to discuss that, and hopefully at that session to come up with a number. I think we're doing a good job of watching out where the money's going, but if we're not careful, I think we have more good projects than we have money. So we need to have a reserve.
I appreciate that, Senator Wallace. I think one of the things that I'd like to determine for the committee, I'd like to have some feedback about this is, from whom would you like to hear in order for us to make some of these determinations? I think one key piece of it is to hear from the Department of Health related to what we anticipate we will need. I know their last proposal did give us some good information. We do have a request for potential vaccine administration, which they did not make that request right now. They said there might be other funding for that at some point, or that might be something that would come at another time. But it's those kind of things I think we need to think about. Do we need to reserve that for the vaccine, or what are the other contingencies? I think keeping the virus at bay, keeping the illnesses down, I think is one of the main things in order for us to be able to have our economy to return. So
well, that and I think it would be good to hear from the other secretaries to see what other needs they see out there. And Larry, if you have a chance to talk with the governor to get some guidance there also, so we can we need to kind of we need to get a feel. We need to establish a reserve, or we're not going to have much of a reserve left.
I think we're all in agreement with that.
thank you. Any comments or thoughts from anyone else here in the room? Does anybody have anything?
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Anybody? No one. We have a second. If there's no other business for the committee, then we will stand adjourned. I'm looking to make sure nobody's waiting to speak. I see a hand. Thumbs up. Thank you. Good to see y'all. Appreciate you. Take care. Thank you.